Hi everyone, I am back and I am on the Bayswater Road, standing in front of one of the most spiritual convents in London. Today I want to continue our execution site tour and we're going to head towards the Tyburn Tree and Marble Arch. But first, I just wanted to show you this amazing little place I found right here hidden away on the Bayswater Road. And this is a convent dedicated to 305 Catholic martyrs who were executed here. Stay tuned, this is going to be a good one. Loads to tell you, ladies and gents. Sinead here with free tours by foot. So here we have what is called the Tyburn Convent. I'll show you that green plaque in just a moment. Now the Tyburn Convent, the nuns in here are known as Benedictine adorers of the Sacred Heart of Montmartre. Now their entire existence revolves around perpetual adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. A nun is always on her knees in prayer, and they take it in shifts in here. Extreme devotion to the Catholic martyrs of any of the Catholic martyrs, but in particular the 105 at Tyburn. So there's the name. I'll just show you a couple of the plaques. Now in 1585, Gregory Gunn predicted that one day a religious house would be founded at Tyburn. His prediction was fulfilled when Tyburn Convent was established in 1903. Now I went in and I rang the bell and I asked one of the sisters if we could film in there. Now she was a bit hesitant, but she said there would be no problem if I took a little shot. So I will include that in the video and you will see one of the nuns in prayer, but it's such a beautiful little chapel. And I just want to show you this stunning statue there of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ. And to the glory of God and in honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, this stone was blessed and laid by Cardinal William Godfrey, Archbishop of Westminster, on the 19th of December 1961, in memory of the glorious martyrs who laid down their lives in defense of the Catholic faith here on Tyburn Hill in 1535 to 1681. So let's just have a little walk up here. I just want to show you what is written. Now you are allowed to attend inside the chapel. So this is just on Bayswater Road, just below the Tyburn Tree. So if you do visit it, it's a nice place to come and just have a little prayer for all of the people that lost their lives at Tyburn. And that's where we're headed next, to speak about the site of over 50,000, they estimate, executions. So first, the dedicated plaque here. 105 Catholic martyrs lost their lives at the Tyburn gallows near the site, 1535 to 1681. Now the circular stone on the traffic island 300 paces east of this point marks the site of the ancient gallows known as Tyburn Tree. It was demolished in 1759. Now we're going to head in that direction in just a second, but just one more there, and that's the Benedictine adorers of the Sacred Heart of Montmartre and the Shrine of the Sacred Heart and the Tyburn martyrs. So it's just a beautiful little chapel. So when most of the executions and most of the ones that took place at Smithfield Market, and most of you will have seen my video on Smithfield Market. If not, we will provide a link there to it in the video. The majority of executions moved here, and between 1196 and 1783 it was one of the primary sites of execution here in London. Now before you were executed here on the Tyburn Tree, 99% of the executions here were of the poor, ladies and gents, or what were perceived as commoners. There was over 200 reasons you could be executed, and some of them were very, very basic, like stealing an apple or an orange, pickpocketing. One of them was damaging Westminster Bridge, looking rough or dirty at night time. So some ridiculous reasons. So in fact, execution didn't fit the crime at the time, and that's because there was inefficient policing and a lack of space in the prisons in London, and this is around the 1700s. So execution was used partially as a deterrent, which is quite ironic considering that these huge crowds that would arrive here for execution day, and there was usually about 6 a year. And people, make no mistake about it, public execution days in London, well, they were perceived like festivals, like great days out. I mean, you brought the children, there was market stalls, there was jugglers, there was jesters, and with any great festival anywhere in the world, alcohol. And again, it was usually a homegrown gin was the drink of choice. And they danced and they drank and they partied. Now, some of the famous executions here drew crowds of up to 200,000 people. So people came for the festivities. So when they were drinking all night long, the following morning, when they woke up after the great public hanging, they didn't feel too healthy the day over the hanging. And this is actually where we believe the term hangover originates from. The day over festivities of drunken public hangings. Now, the area today is Marble Arch, but I just want to show you something interesting going on over there. I'm super nosy, you guys. There's an arrest being made. Somebody's been carried off into the police van. Sorry for being nosy. Now, around here, the prisoners would be brought from the Old Bailey, what was formerly Newgate Prison, and again, please refer to my new Old Bailey video that has been released, and you will get your history on there. And the prisoners were brought about a 3-mile journey on board a prison cart or a prison wagon. More often than not, the coffins that the prisoners were about to be buried in, they sat on en route to being executed right here on this island in the middle of the road. Now, along that journey, the prison officer would be leading the wagon, but the chaplain who would be giving the last rites to the prisoner before execution, and the actual executioner himself, they say, would be travelling alongside them on the wagon. Now, as a reprieve, which is quite hilarious to me, capital punishment still exists in the US. So you know the way people get like a last meal on death row in the US? Well, as a reprieve, the prison wagon would stop along maybe 2 or 3 different pubs along the way, and the prisoners were allowed to have one last drink for the road. One for the road. And this is the site of the famous Tyburn Tree. Now, occasionally there will be a little memorial service takes place here, and you'll often see roses are left here. And there were some very famous executions here over the years. But getting back to the drinking, the prison officer himself wouldn't take a drink because he was said to be on the wagon, ladies and gentlemen. So there you have it, one for the road, hangover, and on the wagon. It just shows you how casual people refer to executions when we use it so casually in our day-to-day language today. Now, this is Oxford Street in the distance, but that was formerly known as Tyburn Road. So when you did arrive here, it was really brutal because it was known as a short drop. You would stand on top of the wagon, then your noose would be attached to the tree, and then the wagon would pull off. But the short drop meant that you weren't always immediately, well, dead. You didn't die, and sometimes it was an excruciating death by suffocation. So it could take up to 45 minutes to die. So if you had friends in the audience, sometimes they would run forward and pull your legs so you could snap your neck. And we believe pulling your leg, the expression comes from that. Now, some will say they were called hangers-on because the rich did pay. Anyone that had money would pay or employ someone to pull their legs to make sure their neck snapped. But years later, when hanging took place again in Newgate, they had the long drop. So it was a little bit more humane, well, as humane as executions or capital punishment could be. Now, one of the more famous Catholic martyrs to die here was Oliver Plunkett, and he was executed on the 1st of July in 1681. He was the last Tyburn Catholic martyr, and he was in fact Archbishop of Armagh, Primate of all Ireland, and he was drawn here in his pontifical robes. He was executed here at Tyburn. Well, technically it was a rigged trial, so he was executed for his faith. But one of the more notorious, and we're going to walk around here now because I'm going to bring you over towards Speaker's Corner, because that has its origins as well in the last speeches or the political statements of the condemned prisoners before execution. Right, we'll get into that in 1 minute. I don't want to get sidetracked. This is the latest attraction here in London, by the way. This is called the Marble Arch Mound. Now, I'm not entirely sure what you think of it, folks, but you can take the steps up to the top there and apparently get a great view of Oxford Circus and Hyde Park. It's had mixed reviews amongst Londoners. It costs about £4 to get up there, but we're going to cross over here. Now, I want to get back to one of the most famous executions, and that was the execution of Oliver Cromwell. Now, Oliver Cromwell executed King Charles I of England here in the UK in 1649 on the 30th of January. So there was a period of English civil war between the parliamentarians and the royalists, and Oliver Cromwell won, and he executed the king. So I'm just going to take a little turn around here and we'll walk through Marble Arch. When he executed the king's son went into exile in Europe, and for a period of 12 years here there was a republic, and he was Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell. Now, Lord Protector, he was an extreme Puritan, so he was a very strict Puritan, in fact. He banned alcohol, was forbidden. All forms of public celebration were forbidden, including Christmas, and everybody was required to wear grey and black at all times. So that ensued until Oliver Cromwell actually died in 1658. Malaria, they say, just one sec, folks, and kidney failure, but eventually it was septicemia which killed him. So he was laid to rest amongst the kings and queens in Westminster Abbey. Now hold that thought for a moment. I just wanted to show you Marble Arch, the famous Marble Arch designed by John Nash, which was originally at the front of Buckingham Palace. Queen Victoria is said to have detested it so much she had it moved here. But this is the John Nash design. So anyway, getting back to Oliver Cromwell, he is laid to rest amongst the kings and queens in Westminster Abbey. And this is when the restoration of the monarchy took place. And that is when King Charles II, the son of King Charles I, became king and the monastery was restored. So he returned to the UK with a taste for fine wine, fine arts and fine women, notorious for up to 30 different mistresses and 18 illegitimate children. And people were delighted to see the king back, and the strict rules were lifted and the party began. However, something didn't quite sit well with Oliver Cromwell. Why was the man who executed his father laid to rest amongst the kings and queens in Westminster Abbey? 3 years after his death in 1661, he exhumes his body, ladies and gents, and he re-executes him at the Tyburn gallows or the Tyburn Tree. Now, just to be specific on this, the Tyburn Tree actually wasn't a tree. It was a big wooden structure with 3 arms, and it's estimated the maximum amount of people, and it did happen once, 24 people could be executed at the Tyburn Tree. So that was the end for Oliver Cromwell. Now, where I am right now is I'm at the top of Park Lane, and we're going over here to Speaker's Corner because it also has its roots. Now, Speaker's Corner is usually on Sunday mornings, and it's where people come to stand on platforms or soapboxes and speak freely about any subject they desire. It's seen some amazing speakers over the years, including Karl Marx, George Bernard Shaw, Oscar Wilde. Lately it's become a bit more of a political activist mainframe, but it takes place right up here. But did you know, well, maybe you didn't, or maybe you did, I know a lot of Londoners wouldn't, that its origins of Speaker's Corner came from the right of prisoners who were about to be executed to atone for their sins. People hoped they would atone for their sins to God and profess their guilt. However, rather than profess their guilt, some of them died for their faith, and they held on to their beliefs before the noose ended their lives. So the last political statements by these people is where we believe the actual origin of Speaker's Corner came from. The last speeches of condemned prisoners at the Tyburn gallows. And to confirm that, here we have Speaker's Corner is found close to the notorious site of Tyburn gallows, where public hangings took place between 1196 and 1783. Legend has it that the origins of Speaker's Corner lie in the tradition of allowing the condemned to make a speech from the scaffold. Now that's said much more eloquently than I tried to say, but you get the idea. However, the right to speak in Hyde Park was formally recognised by the park authorities 80 years after the last hanging took place. So there you have it, ladies and gents, another one of our notorious execution sites here in London, Marble Arch and the Tyburn gallows. Now, here is the Marble Arch Mound. I'll leave that up to your own imaginations as to whether or not it's worth the climb to the top. It seems to be quite contentious at the moment amongst Londoners. I have heard quite a few people have asked for their money back, but maybe somebody would enjoy it. But it's interesting, and I like to kind of put a spin on it. At the time also, executions, they would erect scaffolding. So let's just imagine it was scaffolding, looking down on famous executions at the Tyburn Tree. So that's Sinead, ladies and gents. I'm here in London again. Thank you for watching. Thank you, by the way, for all of your fabulous donations. And that thanks button on YouTube is really working in my favor. I appreciate anything and everything and all of you individually. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing ride for me, and I hope to continue as long as you want me to. So in the meantime, thanks for joining me. Signing out from London, Sinead here with Free Tours by Foot.